Hello, and welcome back to episode 7 of the Quiet Palace podcast, where great legends prevail and evil wanes to dust. Hopefully. I am the spell-slinging anomaly known as Fet, and today shall be the starting point of a 3-part series split within 1 episode each, all within the name of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. In addition, for all to be aware, after the 10th episode, I will have completed my aspirations for finishing Season 1 of the Quiet Palace podcast. After the 10th episode is uploaded, I will be taking a break to address some things and get a head start on Season 2. There's something to be said about using the Dungeon Master's Guide for making dungeons and assets for various adventures. There are lots of descriptions for various topics there to discuss and develop our worlds, and light the way where there may be something blocking our progress. Though it is a useful tool, we must remember it is our imagination and love for the game that drives us to write entire stories for our friends to enjoy alongside us. It shall be us that might have to throw in details that such a book might overlook or deem too specific for the confines of an entire volume. The living tome I have of the same content told me so, and that's the context I'm working with personally. It's easier when the book can just shout a detail from its pages out at you. Makes for a lot less page flipping, I can tell you that for free. Anyways, for the next 3 weeks, we shall construct a quirky, moderately intricate dungeon throughout this 3-part series. We will discuss developing lore behind the dungeon and its current state, questline story, and surrounding lore that helps blend our dungeon into the world, and a unique approach on building a dungeon. But today we are at the base of a mountain. We shall start with part 1, the lore of the dungeon and what occurrences make it as deadly or intriguing as it is in current times. We will begin with a simple who, what, where, when, and why to demonstrate the basics of developing a dungeon. You have the theme in mind, play around with it. Mold it in your mind's eye, to your heart's content. The what of our masterpiece, as I imagine it, as an old battleground, or gladiator arena, now seemingly abandoned. Though none are brave enough to venture beneath where the holding cells are said to lay. For what historical documentation can be found depicts the dungeon beneath the area holding many horrors that were long-lived or perhaps even immortal. It is the dungeon beneath the arena we are interested in. For now, I'll imagine the arena itself as unpopulated entirely, leaving an eerie sense in the back of your adventurers' minds. Something along the lines of a subject known as the backrooms. The mortal that assists me with this project you're listening to right now seems a lot more worldly than I. Having looked into the series a little bit, I can say a similar effect may come to be both above and below ground. Similar instances and just brainstorming, maybe even creating a thought web, to no offense of any mind flayer driders out there, which hopefully don't exist. Again, no offense. Different mechanics or themes may come to be. And before I add them, I try to deem them suitable for D&D 5e content. As for the naming, what comes to mind is Destuka Hold or the Grand Destuka Arena, which sounds good to me. Though that can take more time than I admit in my own head, throwing around things that sound good to me or at least sound thematic. Both are good, but you do what you can and sometimes something just sounds good, despite what giggles you might get around the table. Maybe just avoid the obvious ones. We need not stick with that, but it allows my mind to focus my attention on the primary details. We might come back and change that, but we'll see how this develops first. For when, we can talk about events that have occurred in the past in our arena, and the halls of the holding cells that might have affected the Grand Arena in certain ways. Perhaps powerful Fae were captured and trapped within, and when released manipulated the arena so that certain magical effects manifest under certain conditions. A psionic attack, perhaps a summoning of other powerful creatures. Maybe even a curse or a blessing, depending on the nature of the Fae. It could perhaps be a treant that planted a runed and warded stone deep within the earth near the arena after escaping, making the creatures slain there have creatures like blights that bloom from the corpses, emerging to kill all they find. Perhaps said blights live and defend their territory around or within the arena, which may be something to consider when the players are gathering information about the place to understand what they could encounter there. More of a footnote, but worth thinking about for sure. There are many whens we can manufacture, but for now we'll consider that a key modifier to certain occurrences within Destuka's confines. Let us discuss the why. Perhaps the empire that reigns today was the successor of a kingdom with a sadistic king, who pinned the worst of criminals up against horrific creatures to gleefully watch their disembowelment or their struggle to remain alive amidst dangerous creatures. The arena was abandoned when that king died, and their son had Destuka decommissioned permanently. In time, it was forgotten, for good reason, as there may have once ruled some emperors in modern times that would have put it to good use. As for the who in this situation, we'll coin and make a concept behind this mysterious monarch. King Tretica, who reigned over the Onyx Kingdom of Dunlamos. He was said to possess a ring that made monsters within a certain threshold of power cower in fear in his presence, should he speak the words that enact the ring's effects. To make a highlight for a future part of the series, this ring could perhaps be retrieved by the party to help them against an overwhelming fight they might face before the final encounter with Destuka Hold. This very ring we will coin as the Lion's Ring. It could be that our party has the ring but does not know the triggering phrase, and perhaps that could be the reason for our party journeying there as well, among other perspectives that could come into play. To top things off with where, our empire might not have this place marked on the map. I envision an opening that is believed to be just overgrown forest and nothing more. Lo and behold, within the heart of this forest. Maybe 2 days' worth of travel in from harsh conditions. Destuka Hold looms over a small portion of the forest, a haunting memory of a lost kingdom. Very few know of it. Only the most indulgent historians could perhaps recall it, and fewer yet are driven to research this place. Most may deem the place no different to hearsay and legend. Now, let's get a little more specific with some details, as personally I'm dying to jam-pack a lot of cool ideas I have this week into the big picture. Within our base details, we know this place has dangerous creatures of varying species lurking without the area. Blight-like creatures that bloom from other creatures that die in the arena's influence, made so by a mysterious creature that warded a buried runed stone somewhere in the arena. We can use the Twig Blight or the Needle Blight monster stats, or your own version, but these ones are good for now. Perhaps those who can detect it, despite the ward that guards the blasted thing, might see where such an item lies, if they happen to learn about such an exotic ordeal from an estranged party or an old and abandoned text. It is perhaps 30 feet east from the center of the eastern walls of the arena from the outside, and about 20 feet deep into the earth. Dispelling the ward can allow the party to deface the rune etched into the rock, nullifying its effect and preventing further blights from growing off the dead. The blights might even be defending this place in numbers, which is another element that can add to the adventurer's threat to the party's well-being. We know there is an interaction with the magic item we can discover here, which is the trigger phrase for the Lion's Ring, if retrieved, and should they know enough about the artifact to pursue such a component. It may be etched into a stone tablet kept in an ornate chest, or it might be known only to a few select entities. Perhaps some Fae that reside in this arena know of the ring, and perhaps have tried to steal it while they were in the king's vicinity. It would not be without reason some of said Fae have heard of the triggering phrase. Getting that information out of them, though, well, it'll be a difficult thing to do, and chances are they want that ring for themselves. So being able to find a written example of the triggering phase, even if it must be a puzzle, is reasonable if your party wants to put it into use, and you're looking for a list of opportunities to acquire this privilege. The now crumbled temple where the king once resided held this ring, or maybe they found it deep within the crypts dedicated to royal blood, having plucked it from the finger of an old king's remains. After some identification or sage advisory, the party learns the triggering words for the ring can be found etched into a tablet the king kept safeguarded within an ornate chest in the heart of the arena's holding cells. Perhaps the party comes across a scroll instead that entails a list of wondrous items kept within the arena's vicinity, and the journey there to procure them. This path may also bear less information for them. Of course, if this is a one-shot, our introduction might be a little less drawn out. Perhaps the party already has the ring from adventures briefly described instead of played through. For that authentic campaign experience, though, we're here to brainstorm the lengths of the context that make this place engaging and memorable. The names of the Fae that reside here may come to the forefront from their deeds past throughout the Empire or kingdoms past, even before that as well. Evil fairies and hags are to name the most apparent ideas, but your old and powerful beings can take various shapes. Delilah, a night hag that roams the halls of the arena's holding cells, wields various magic items that could be incredible benefits to your party, or perhaps her evil deeds warrant thwarting as a priority of the party's operations. A kidnapper of children in the night, a plague bringer, and general evildoer. Delilah's deeds might travel or translate on account of those unfortunate enough to witness her atrocities. It may be possible to gain a quest to defeat this evil for the benefit of the town that this evil witch visits. Nahagaloth could be an ancient treant that resides near the arena, perhaps guarding the rune stone that allows these twisted blights to join him in his malevolent influences. He could perhaps be named in a wizard's tome from the kingdom's era found by the party in their travels to a particular ruin of sorts. His general operations makes it incredibly difficult for any to get close enough to inspect the place or inhabit it. Curious scholars may hire you to dispatch them, and his evil manifestations. There may be other powerful creatures here as well. Perhaps Delilah oversees a coven. Maybe the corpses that the blights grow from rise up as well to wander amidst the arena and the forest in general. Necromancers might be in the picture, or even a lich that could commune or feud with the hags for dominion over the area. Mavalia the Blunt, a lich who hides deep within the arena's depths, communes with the dark gods and bends the undead that roam here to her will. There may even be wars over portions of the arena between the hags and their minions and Mavalia's cultists. Though the party may not venture that far into the dungeon to confront such a powerful entity, the drive to do so may come from those who wish to see this lich destroyed. Mavalia may send hordes of her undead to nearby towns and cities to wreak havoc or create more soldiers in her unholy army. And such municipalities may be looking for warriors that are able to find the source of this threat and neutralize it. Considering we're dealing with a lich here, though, that may be a higher level quest to ponder. That is at least 3 big baddies and their underlings that we have covered, alongside all the potential reasons this place may be relevant to your adventuring party. We can go higher or lower than that, of course, but variety, I find, is the spice of any journey. DMs put a lot of effort into realizing their world and the details therein, to create multiple opportunities to lead into a juicy part of the story or perhaps an intriguing side quest is more than justified. Among all the things to see, defeat, or even take as our spoils, we should allow ourselves as Dungeon Masters to present various awesome opportunities for your party to achieve wondrous feats. Not to say they should be railroaded, of course. If the party's not interested, so be it. But one day that information might be relevant as you pull that campaign back out to run with a different group, and find that this group of heroes takes great interest in another wonderful adventure. With all that being said, I've spoken of the lost kingdom of Dunlamos, the fallen king Tetrick, who once held the Lion's Ring and used it to sadistic ends. We learned of the Testuka Arena and the holding cells, a horror story to be uncovered and discovered, I guess, at face value. Not to forget the artifacts, secrets, and unclear threats that roam here, alongside the potential loot and benefits your party might find should they attempt to clear this place. We are one step closer to making an incredible dungeon that shall be discussed among the many stories your friends tell each other in future games to come. Now, these aren't ironclad details you need to follow, of course. All of this is merely for inspiration and storytelling. And though this example is freely given to you, you might use it as the fuel to spark your own potential idea, leaning on the mechanics given as an example today. Though I hoped you enjoyed that idea. I wasn't sure exactly how deep to go with the detail, but I feel like it's established enough to be put into a lot of different campaigns as a small offshoot idea, or with bigger concepts hidden within for those that crave them. And of course, if any of you out there have any intricate or unique dungeons you've run for the enjoyment of your party, feel free to tell me and the rest of us about it in the comments section. Always happy to hear new stories and have a new discussion. Thank you all again for tuning in to another episode of the Quiet Palace podcast. I hope the first month of this crazy revolution has been somewhat kind to you, and I hope to talk to you all once more very soon. Thank you.